Hello my fellow freedom builders and welcome back to the channel. It is Monday and therefore of course it's Mining Monday, and today we have a jam-packed program for you here. Now the program is that of course we're going to have a look at gold, silver and the dollar as we usually do. But we also are going to have a look at copper today because copper is one of the main topics of the video today. We're going to have a look at copper, why it is going up in price, and we're going to have a look at a very interesting copper stock. So we are of course going to look at the GDX and GDXJ as we used to, going to look at the copper as an overall case. We're going to look at something called the Ring of Fire. And no, it is not the good old Johnny Cash Ring of Fire we're talking about an area with a huge amount of volcanoes, and we're going to have a talk about what that means for our investments. And I should thank my researcher and partner in this program, Lasse here from Denmark. He is a huge help in researching these topics. Many of them would not have come to being videos if it hadn't been for him. So that is great. He's also our partner in Market Timer Special, our subscription area, where he's answering all the mining and commodity questions in there. At the end of today, we're going to have a look at Luminex, which is the stock at place here for copper and actually also for gold, but I'll get back to that later. Now, first of all, before you go any further, remember that on the buildingfreedom.dk, I'll link to it below, you can sign up for our free newsletter here, and there are some investment videos that you'll get for free, and I'm also sending out new emails very shortly to all of you. Also remember to subscribe and like the video if you do like the research work we are doing here. All right, let's get straight to it and onto the commodities. Now, we have gold, and gold actually spiked up here, and as I said last week, this was a very important break because we were breaking up through this channel in the gold. Now, then this big red bar came, and what you can read out of that is that the vaccine news came out, that Pfizer had this vaccine, and all of a sudden everything was good and jolly. But the thing is that this vaccine, even though it is great news that is coming out and it might have up to 90% effectiveness, then it is preliminary data and it'll take quite a while before it is ready, and it is going to take even longer before it is ready to distribute all over the world and all over the United States and Europe, just for that sake. As far as I can read, all the people that we need to vaccinate, they need 2 doses, and since we need something like 2 to 3 billion people vaccinated in the world before it really helps getting the herd immunity up, then we'll need something like 4 to 6 billion doses, and that's going to take a while. So what we saw here was that people took the money into risk on markets instead of risk off, and that jacked this down. Now it has been crawling up again, and I am pretty sure that we'll see another break up here because the euphoria cannot really last this long in the market. Now people have heard about the vaccine, great, but United States is still shutting down, Europe is shutting down due to the virus, so that is gonna take a toll on the economic scenarios. So right now, I'm still bullish on the gold. I'm bullish on the silver. The silver actually has already, or at least close to breaking, depending on, of course, where you're drawing your channel. You can draw that a million different places. But it is still working its way up, and I think we will see a break on both the silver and the gold very shortly. Now, the new metal of the day here, of the week, is copper. And what we're seeing here is an entirely other story than with the gold and silver, because we are only seeing small retracements here and then it is shooting up again. And I'm going to tell you a bit about why, but copper is extremely strong right now. I have been reading that people are talking about resistance here around the 330, but the trend is very strong. If we just draw a regression channel here, as I normally do also on my stocks, we can see that this is a very strong regression channel. The closer this number gets to 1, meaning if it is above 0.8 or 0.85, it is a very strong regression channel that tends to hold the price within the 2 standard deviations here. And we can see right now it is at 0.96 and we are at the bottom of the channel, and I think we can shoot further up here. So I think the copper prices are going up. Looking at the US dollar, it is still working its way through this strange range here. This is the DXY, the dollar index, the dollar index. And what I suppose will happen is that the dollar will start dropping. And I talked about that in my last video about if there were some stimulus packages coming out. And right now with the election in the United States not really in the clear yet, even though I think most people realize that Trump has won, but he still needs to concede and give over some power to Biden. And until that happens, I think we'll see the dollar in some sort of twilight zone here. And my opinion here is that it will break further down. But let's see if I'm right. Looking at the GDX, the majors here, we can see that it is still following this trend. It followed the spike up in gold and then was shot down. And what we can see here is that it is still holding support here. And let's see where the gold price goes this week. If it goes up, I'm pretty sure the GDX will follow, as will the GDXJ, the juniors here. And that is not as close to breaking out. But we are kind of in a limbo right now, where we need some election results to be finalized and so on. I think that you all know there's a lot of thoughts about the fraud and the conspiracy theories in the United States and so on. I think the results are pretty clear if you ask me personally, and I think it will become clear also to the population. I think it will be announced shortly that Joe Biden will continue. Then there's a mess with the Senate, and we don't really have a clear picture there. All right. So let's get into the theme of the day, which is copper. And copper is absolutely relevant now, and actually for the next many decades to come. Copper has just been even more relevant because Biden, at least compared to Trump, is a great fan of sustainable energy. Now, we have earlier talked about silver's role in the transition into green energy, but copper's role is actually even bigger. The reason for this is mainly price, but silver and copper has similar characteristics when talking about conductivity. And silver is the number one in terms of conductivity, but copper is mostly used due to both the price and mainly because of the price. But both metals are winners in this transition into green energy. But today we'll focus on the copper part of it. Now, some motivation why copper is worth looking at. If we just take a look at this one here. And of course I will, as always, link to all of the things I show you here. I'll link to that below. Now this is a little PDF file where it states copper drives electric vehicles. And in here they show what we already know, that we will have a lot of extra electrical vehicles on the road shortly. And what they show here is the amount of copper that is used in the different vehicles. Now, in a conventional car, just running on gas, they use somewhere between 18 and 49 pounds of copper. Now, here they calculate in pounds, but you can roughly divide it by 2, then you have it in kilos. Now, in the HEV, that is a hybrid electrical vehicle. That's a kind of car I'm driving in. They are used almost double the max amount here. That is 85 pounds of copper used in the hybrids. In the plug-in, you know, where you both have the hybrid and you also have a battery that you can charge at night. In these PHEVs, the plug-in hybrid electrical vehicle, they used approximately 132 pounds. In the battery electrical vehicle, the BEVs, that is like Tesla and so on, purely on batteries, we are talking about 183 pounds. And then, of course, there is the buses. Hybrid electric bus contains roughly 200 pounds, and the battery electric bus, not the hybrid, but the battery electric bus contains above 800 pounds. And more buses are coming into the picture here. So what we can see from this file is that the amount of demand for copper is simply skyrocketing. And as you can see here with some of the numbers from BYD, the Chinese EV producer, you can see some of the forecast into the future here as to what is used, how much copper is demanded for their EVs and for their charging ports, because the charging ports where you actually charge the cars, they also need a lot of copper. And as you can see, this is exponential growth, and there is absolutely no doubt that copper will be a big part of this. There's simply not as good a metal when you compare it to the price per pound here. So copper will be in high demand. Now I have another file here from Energy Mining that I'll also link to you just below here. But here we can see the world EV copper consumption. That is simply how much copper is used in the EVs. And when we look at these charts, there are different car types here. We have the hybrid, we have the plug-in hybrid, the battery and the fuel cells, because they're also mentioned here. And the thing is that you can see the normal, if I could call it that, the hybrid, mostly used right now, that is going up through 2025, 27, 29, then it starts to drop off. The plug-in is also pretty constant in this area, but the battery electrical vehicle and of course the infrastructure, the green-gray up here, the charging points and so on, they are simply exploding. When we are looking at the global demand for copper here, we can see that the blue line out in the future is the demand of copper going up when we include the copper in the EV production. The black line here is simply if we are not counting in global refined copper demand with no EVs, then we can see it is much more stagnant here, but exploding when we are talking about the EV demand. What is really interesting when we look at investing in metals, in commodities and in mining that produces these commodities is if there is a supply gap, meaning are we producing less in the future of this metal than will actually be needed? Because if that is so, if that is the case, then we can be pretty sure that the price will go up. And the thing with mining, as I've talked about also with the silver mining so on, is that it is not just to start digging for something and then it is pouring up the ground. It is a long process, meaning that if you are in a place where you also almost have a gap, a lack of products, then it takes a long while before you can actually ramp up the production. And right here we can see what is operating in the copper mining sector right now. That is this very dark blue here, almost black, and you can see that we are 2020 now, and it has slightly started to drop the operating copper mining here, and you can see that it will start to drop dramatically. Then we have, of course, different grades of what we have in the ground. We have the firm here, which helps us. You can see the yellow dotted line is the demand for copper here. And you can see that also this firm here, that helps us right now the next couple of years. But we will start to see a gap where less copper is produced compared to what is actually demanded. Then we have the light blue here in the middle. That is the probable. As you remember from the other mining videos, there are different descriptions as to the products you have in the ground. And the probable, of course, is also there. But you still need to be 100% sure how much, and you need to get it up. Then there's a possible, as you know, it is getting less and less likely or probable to be found in the amount you hope for. And this possible here is this one, and if they are all executed and found, then of course we will be well off until at least the next 10 years, but then that will start to drop off as well. And we actually need to make sure that here in the mid-30s, to be sure that we can meet demand, we need everything we can get, also what we have prospects, and hopefully also the explorations right now, simply to make sure that we can meet the demand. And remember, this is just with the projects or the estimates for the EV sales. As we have seen so far, the reality has simply crushed the estimates time and time again. So this demand for copper might go even further up, we don't know, but these are the estimated demands right now. But it might actually have a steeper curve, and then we will be in either in even bigger problems to this supply gap when we are talking about that. Now, a thing to consider also when we are talking about the copper, because I'm talking about that it's just about finding some copper in the ground, and then you have a mine, and then you pull some copper out. But as you remember from my other videos, we also need to talk about political, social, environmental risk when we are talking about where the mines are found. Because as you might remember, I had a video about a mine down in Zimbabwe, I think it was, where I said, well, the Zimbabwe mine, there was a huge political risk there. There was also an infrastructure risk and so on. There was some electricity grid that was not well enough. Last time I talked about the mines up in Finland, where we said, well, there's actually, that is a way more stable political climate to work in. And what we can see when we are talking about the copper mines is that the two largest providers of the probable, possible and prospect combined here is Chile and Peru. And even though they are okay countries to work in, there is a way larger political and social, there's a significant environmental and social issues in some of the key mining jurisdictions. And that is Chile and Peru here that definitely have some risk built in. Not to say that they are in any way collapsing when we're talking about the mining sector, but it is just when you invest into this, you need to know that putting your money into these countries, there is a larger risk than, for instance, a mine in United States, in Canada, in Finland, something like that, where we have a more solid and stable political climate. And that brings me to talk about this topic I mentioned in the beginning, this Pacific Ring of Fire. And now this is from something called the climatology.com. I'll also link to it below. But what you need to know is that here we have the Ring of Fire. And now what is that? Well, that is the area in the world where we have a ring of the most active and closest placed volcanoes, either active, semi-active or former active volcanoes. Some of you might have heard of this Ring of Fire. It is called the Ring of Fire because there is around 452 active or semi-active volcanoes here, which account for just about 75% of the world's total amount of volcanoes. Now, when we look at this, we can see that it is mostly here out in deep ocean. Then we have some areas around Japan here, up just at the south tip of Russia here it must be. Then we have all on the south side of Alaska here, Canada, North America, and all the way down in South America. And we must just say that in these of all of this line, all of this Ring of Fire here, also under Antarctica here, the place where we find the most metals, the most commodities in the ground, gold, silver, copper, and so on, is here in South America. And you might ask yourself, what does all of this has to do with my investing? Now, about 60% of all the world's copper is produced from something called porphyry deposits, and most of the world's porphyry deposits lie in this Ring of Fire. Copper and other metals in porphyries are concentrated in veinlets that are formed as this volcano magma was cooling, which means that these volcanoes have been working as some sort of mineral feeders in the past, creating some massive deposits with copper, gold, and so on. So, in general, the average grade, meaning how concentrated the metals are when you dig it up, the average grade of these porphyries around the world is quite low. On the copper side, it is only around 0.7%. But the deposits are usually so huge that it can easily be economically extracted in huge mines that relies on economies of large scales for profitability. So let me just show you here. I have a link for one of the very last mines here. That is the Yes, it is this Escondida, I think it is pronounced here, the BHP groups, large copper mines here. And first of all, you can see the magnitude of this place. It is truly huge. But we can also see that the amount of expected copper that is produced here is falling dramatically. We can see here that in the Escondida in northern Chile, it is expected to tumble. The production of copper is expected to tumble by between 13 and 21% in fiscal 2021 as great decline. So there are some huge problems with these mines. We need to find some new areas to dig, some new targets, some new companies we can invest in where we can make money, because I'm pretty sure that you can see the motivation for investing in copper here. It is a huge thing. We just need to find some companies that are kind of stable, even though they are placed in these kind of political unstable environment. So knowing that, we simply try to find the most successful companies and the most successful people that has thrived in this part of the world before. And that is exactly this kind of company that I'm going to look at today. And I'm going to show you this Luminex Resources, which is one of the best companies as far as I can tell. We have been sitting looking at the research from Lasse, my researcher and mining expert. And Luminex actually look quite amazing. And I'll go you through some points here to show you why we actually are quite interested in this Luminex. We have bought a small position in it, but that could easily be a larger position further down the road. Now, Luminex is located in Ecuador, so they are right on this ring of fire. And right now they have 3 primary resources. It might be 4 shortly, but 3 right now. And I'll just go through these very quickly and then return to the last 2 here. And these are the copper parts. But as you can see, we have the Luminex Resources. They have the Condor project here, where we have gold. AU is gold, and we have around 5 million ounce indicated and inferred here. So that is just on itself actually a very good gold reserve they have here. And they are very low priced on this gold. So if they only had this, the Luminex would actually still be fairly priced right now. But then they are in the project with BHP and Anglo American, 2 very big partners here, that over the next 6 to 7 years will put somewhere roughly around $100 million into these 2 projects. They are owning 60% of it, but that means that Luminex will not have to put up money for these 2 projects, but these 2 are copper projects, and they will start drilling here in the one of them in Q1 21 here, and the other one is planned drilling in the first half year of 2021 as well. And as you can you can kind of say that this is a free bet, a free option for Luminex, but I'll get back to that shortly. Just know that they have the gold in the ground right now. We know that, and that is the company just with that is fairly priced. And then we have these 2, you could say, options into the future here. So there'll be a lot of news coming out from these in the future, and that could help boost the price of Luminex here. They are a part of this large Lumina group with a lot of good track record here. You can read that further down here, but you can see they have been able to raise $275 million here and returned $1.6 billion. So they are experienced, they have a track record, so they are solid people. Now, looking at the info here, we can see that this guy, Ross Beatty, that as some of you mining interested folks might know, mining entrepreneur here, he owns just around 20% of the entire venture here. That is very bullish for the Luminex. For the ones that doesn't know Ross Beatty, he's the guy behind Pan American Silver, Equinox Gold, etc. And the rest of the board and management owns 6%. But what is What we like more is this one here. The Ecuadorian entrepreneurial group owns just around 15%. And that is simply local business owned. And this is absolutely key because they have support from the locals and one of the best mining veterans in the industry. The market cap is quite low, around 70 million Canadian dollars. Management is continuously buying on the open market at higher prices, and there's basically no warrants. Every time there is a placement, Ross Beatty and the management take place, and they don't give participant warrants and options, and that is a huge plus in our book here. So the capital structure here is just what we want to see. If you have seen some of the last mining videos, we are looking for companies where the management are really putting their own money into this, not just by some risk-free options as we saw last week, but actually putting their own money up. But that is very, very positive and very bullish. But let's just go back to this slide again here. Because what we can see here is there is around 5 million ounces of gold at the Condor project, which means they are valued below $10 per ounce gold in the ground. This alone is very cheap. And should mean we have a value floor of a kind, even though the current resources is low-grade gold. What is more exciting, now when today's video is about copper, is that they have these two copper joint ventures. And as I mentioned, it is the BHP and the Anglo American, and that is two world-class partners. As you can see, BHP and Anglo American will spend approximately $100 million, as I mentioned, for 60% of the project. That means that Luminex, they're pretty much risk-free here and also will receive some money from them over the next years. I know that they can pull out pretty much next week of these projects and just leave it in the ground and say that was wasted money. But as I mentioned before, even though they do that, they still have, Luminex, they still have all the gold in the ground here. So, note that they have found a very high-grade target at Condor at the Cam deposit where they are drilling at this moment, and they will start drilling at the Tarkey and the Pegasus in the beginning of the next year, which is also very exciting. All right, let's go down here. Now, as I mentioned, Ecuador is in this area where there is some political risk. And of course, if this kind of mine would have been placed in the United States, we could have seen some times of some kind of 5 to 10x of the current price. And now I haven't showed you the price, but let's just show that to you here. You can see the Luminex resources here was on a big trip here from around 0.4 and up to above 1 here. That was a very good trip up here. Then it has retraced, and as you know, I'm also a trend follower, so I don't like taking these trades, at least not too heavily. We have taken a little position down here, but waiting for some more confirmation on the price here. But this is where it is around, and you can see the price development. It has kind of a roof up here around 1 to 1.08 or something like that. Now, looking at this one, as I said, it is a political unstable climate, and the price could easily be, I don't know, 3, 4, 5, maybe 8 if it was located in United States. But that said, Ecuador is actually becoming more open to foreign companies. And what we can see here is that in 2014, government engages Wood Mackenzie to help reform the mining code to make Ecuador competitive. So 6 years ago, they started moving in this direction. In 15, there was a ministry of the mines established. In 16, concession system reopened. Lumina Gold is awarded 32 prospective concessions. Also in 16, Lundin Gold signs agreement with government with a structured work around to the windfall tax here. And in 18, eliminates the windfall tax and reduces NSR range from 5.8 to 3 to 8%. So, as you can see here, it is not like they are completely against foreign capital, foreign investors. They are actually opening up, and with good ground, because or with good reason, because this is absolutely a good source of income for them if they can get this structured correctly. Now, I'll not go into details with all of their different targets and all of the different plans. They are described in here, but just to give you a quick summary, as I'm not sure I mentioned, but they have $10 million in cash right now, which is a lot, and they have absolutely no problem raising money with this company structure they are in, and with the management they have. So they have $10 million in cash that they have raised just recently, which is very, very nice. They are undervalued based on the current gold resource and work as a great leverage to this rising gold price. If the gold just all of a sudden explodes, then that will heavily influence the price of Luminex. They will be drilling at 4 projects in a few months, where 3 of them are after big copper porphyry deposits. And this means that we will have a lot of news flow starting in a few months. And then they will end up owning 30% of Pegasus and Turkey, if they end up as mines eventually. This is simply great, because they will take these 2 projects forward without spending any money of their own, which is pretty much risk-free. They are located in Ecuador, so you have to take the political risk, but as I just mentioned, they are opening up very, very much to this area. And yeah, if we wanted this kind of mine and it was outside a political risky area, we could simply get nowhere near it at the current price. So right now, there are a lot of things happening right in Ecuador right now. You can see a lot of projects, a lot of companies down there. And when we have looked at it, and with the help of Lasse, as you know, we have found that this is absolutely one of the best copper plays that you can find out there, at least in our opinion, when you want to go for these smaller developers and explorers here. So I hope this made sense. This was all of the agenda for today: the gold, silver, copper and dollar, the GDX, GDXJ, copper, ring of fire and Luminex. If you have questions, you're welcome to ask them underneath the video here. But if the questions are too complex or a lot about specific companies that I haven't mentioned, then that is mostly in the Market Timer Special group, our Danish subscription area, where our expert Lasse is also a member and answering all of the relevant questions there. Now remember to subscribe to this channel, remember to like the video, and that is about it for Mining Monday for today. Take care of yourself and your money out there. I'll talk to you again very shortly. Bye.